I think about the amount of time that I spend on my device. And my own daughter has had to say, Mom, put your phone down. So I think we're in a culture where we're so connected and it's immediate response. And we're so used to that. So getting away from that and really pausing and having what I call like those real conversations, which is a person to person with my mouth and not a text, that is healthy. And I think all parents can benefit from taking a more diligent approach to being aware of what our children are navigating social media wise and how they're navigating it for that matter.
It's a brand new day.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle in and hold on to your hats. We're going all the way to the top today. We are thrilled to welcome Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Sharonica Hardin-Bartley, to the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So we're going to start off pretty easy. I just want the audience to get a chance to know who we're speaking with. So would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your professional journey?
Absolutely. So I am Sharonica Hardin-Bartley, and I am in my 8th year as superintendent for the school district of University City in St. Louis, Missouri. I am a lifelong educator. I always call myself a teacher at heart. I started teaching in the St. Louis public schools, moved on from there to work as a building principal at the elementary level, had a passion for people and children. So went on to work in human resources for St. Louis Public Schools and later for the Ridner School District. And there was a unique opportunity to serve in the community where I live. I'm a resident of University City. So I applied for the position and was fortunate to be identified as superintendent in 2016. My work is really centered around equity, particularly racial equity, trauma-informed practices, really understanding how to create systems of support so that no child falls through the cracks. I was involved with the Ferguson Commission, the Ferguson Report, particularly the child well-being and education equity at the center recommendations. And I helped to write the Missouri model for trauma-informed schools. So my professional work is grounded in youth. My civic or community-oriented work is grounded in youth. I serve on boards for the American Heart Association, Magic House, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Eastern Missouri, United Way, and University City Children's Center. And I'm a mom. So I have 2 beautiful children,
Love it.
Kyle and Charlie, and my husband is James. So that's who I am.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to insert a big audience applause there. That is quite the involvement. And this is perfect. This is perfect for you because our goal is to help the youth as well and get this message out and see where we can help. So thank you again.
Absolutely. No problem.
Yes,
no problem.
I love how involved you are with so many different things. Very admirable. And that trauma-informed piece as an elementary teacher, I know how important that is in this day and age. So how do you typically interact and engage with social media personally and professionally?
So I will be honest. Social media is one of those things that I love, and it's also one of those things that I like the least. I use it in my professional work for communicating district happenings to celebrating our students. So personally, I have a professional Twitter account. Our district, as a district, has a Facebook account, Instagram, Twitter, and we also have LinkedIn as a district.
Well, that's very cool. So mostly sounds like a lot of professional opportunities and just through the district, which we've heard a lot of throughout several of our interviews, the schools being able to promote events, promote athletes, promote successes within the student population.
Yep. And then, of course, as a school superintendent, we get to talk about school closures. So we've had 3 inclement weather days in St. Louis so far. So we use it for those types of emergency kind of communication as well.
It streamlines it so much rather than having to sit and watch the news cycle like I grew up doing. So,
Yep, same.
yeah. So we are operating pretty much in a fully digital age. And
Yes.
I'm just curious, at what grade level in your district do students begin getting digital devices assigned to them?
So I would say that the pandemic forced us to thrust our scholars into the digital world earlier. So we had tablets at the early childhood level, and we had iPads and Chromebooks for iPads for kindergarten, and in Chromebooks for first through 12. We are no longer one-to-one for our primary grades, but our 6th through 12th grade, they all have Chromebook devices that they utilize, and we really try to use in-class devices for our younger scholars, particularly early childhood. So they'll use iPads or tablets in class for class instruction, and then our elementary students would be the same. So some of their learning platforms for literacy and math are on a device, and then they also have their testing cycle that is on a device. We don't want there to be a barrier to access, so we do provide devices if students have a need to do work or access those types of resources at home.
That's great. And like you said, COVID kind of changed things, and they have many, many uses, but I love to hear the way that you guys are using them. So speaking of that, there are always some positives. So focusing on the positives when it comes to digital devices, what are some ways you've seen devices at any grade level work well with social media?
Yeah, so just being responsible. So our students having campaigns around different topics that are of interest to them. Students actually utilizing TikTok. I'm not a big fan of TikTok as well, but utilizing it to tell stories or to create different types of content around subjects that they're studying. Students being able to negotiate and understand what I call, the difference between what's fact and what's fiction, and really being good stewards of utilizing social media in a way that it can inform and enhance their instructional process, but not take away from it. It should never be a distraction. It should be a value add. So those are just a few of the examples that I've seen in our district.
Yeah, that's a great response. And with all the positives that come across with that, of course, with all of us, adults included, there's some negatives. But in the schools and maybe even on personal devices too, what has been the most challenging aspect of social media and digital devices?
Lack of supervision. So we partner in tandem with families and caregivers. And when I see young people not having any adult that is supporting them, or I don't want to say monitoring in a punitive way, but just being aware of what's happening, I think that's where I see some of the negative issues happen. And that's the inappropriate content, or, some of the cyberbullying, or just students accessing information that they're just not developmentally ready to access. And there's so much available at their fingertips when they have little to no supervision. It does cause a lot of challenges with what we have to navigate in the schools.
Yeah, and the schools can only do so much in that regard, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
monitoring, of course, but do you see or feel, I guess, in your experiences, the parents within your districts or your student population, do you feel they're involved, or do you think there's some opportunity there?
I think there's an opportunity for all parents to be more involved. And I think that, parents to say, well, I have a filter, or I have these controls, I have these timers. Our children are so creative and they're so technologically savvy. It's not enough to say, I have these controls. You have to physically inspect, you have to physically monitor. I personally encourage families to have like no device time. Like there should be a time that you disconnect from the device and talk to each other. And when I see households that have that as a part of their structures, as a part of their expectation, it does not make the inappropriate interactions go away, but it does help to curb them. And I think that families in general can all do that. I think about the amount of time that I spend on my device, and my own daughter has had to say, Mom, put your phone down, you know. So I think we're in a culture where we're so connected and it's immediate response. And we're so used to that. So getting away from that and really pausing and having what I call like those real conversations, which is a person to person with my mouth and not a text, that is healthy. And I think we all parents can benefit from taking a more diligent approach to being aware of what our children are navigating social media wise and how they're navigating it for that matter.
Cut, wrap. We need to bottle that up and just put it on shelves. That was absolute perfect response. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you notice when speaking with administrators across the district that there are certain grade levels that tend to struggle the most with digital devices and social media, like middle school, high school, or a specific grade?
Well, developmentally, middle school is that age where the brain is still developing. There's puberty, there's hormones, and the executive functioning skills are just not quite there. And middle school students are middle school students, and they do things that are just not always appropriate. And so when you throw in social media, it just compounds an already challenging time, and it just makes it even more stressful for the child, more disruptive to the learning environment. That's where I see that connection. They cannot turn those phones off. They cannot put those phones down. And then, of course, even at the secondary level for high school scholars, it's a similar situation. We have phone lockers now that we've implemented in our high school, and we are beginning to implement them at our middle school. And it's really from a place of when you're a student, I want you to be able to be a student. And I want you to be able to use your technology and your devices to aid in the instruction. And again, it should never be a distraction. And when it gets to the point that it's disruptive, it's distracting, that's a problem. Schooling is so important. And I think there's so much out there for our children to access. And there's a reason that, you know, we have teachers and that we have adults and that we have caregivers because children do not know how to make some of those decisions for themselves. And it is the responsibility of the adults to aid them and support them. So looking at a video or being on TikTok for hours at a time may seem harmless, but the brain development is in question and how the brain works. It's all of the stimulation that happens when students are forced to be in a classroom, pick up a book or look at, do something that's paper pencil, their attention spans are so short. And so we're seeing that transfer into school. So basic functions like doing math. Math is arithmetic. It is writing numbers. It is understanding those numbers. And I can be on a computer and do math, but I need to be able to understand it. And I might not have flashing lights and sounds and different characters to help me understand that, but those concepts are critically important. So I think that particularly for our middle school scholars, I see that the devices are a distraction and it deters them from being able to focus on basic literacy and basic mathematical concepts and skills that are essential for life.
Yeah.
Right. And middle schoolers, like you said, they are figuring out their world. And
yes, they are.
There is a time and place for technology. But I'm wondering, how long have you had that in place with the phone lockers for middle and high school?
So the high school, we had phone lockers implemented about 2 years ago. And our middle school, we're rolling that plan out for next school year. So we just purchased them and they're being installed and we're training teachers because one thing about middle school children, they think they're a lot older than they are and they really want to have agency and voice. So we want to make sure that we are able to do this with them and that they don't perceive it as us doing something to them. And we want to do it in collaboration with them. And we want to make sure that we're keeping them safe. So we don't want there to be a power struggle or a battle about, the devices, because again, that's another distraction. But we really want them to understand why we're doing it. And we're not just being mean adults who don't want them to have fun, but we're doing this for their well-being and for the well-being of the environment, the school environment.
And and it may be too early to tell, but when you think about disciplinary action that stems from social media across that student population where you've implemented this, I'm sure there's an anticipation that there'll be a reduction in that. Or have you realized any of those, a reduction in misuse?
I am amazed at what young people put on social media. It just baffles me. And the amount of discipline issues that I've had as a result of what is posted. And it's joking, I was just kidding. But I tell people, I tell my young people, it's like toothpaste. Once you put it out of the tube, you cannot get the toothpaste back in it. So social media is like that. Once it's out there, even if it was a joke, even if it was fun, it causes harm, it's disruptive, and then there are consequences. So my hope is that if we are reducing the amount of screen time, reducing the amount of touches. For one, we're letting them know, guess what? I can be a student and I have my device. And that there's some normalcy to not always being connected on social media or looking at the gram or TikToking or doing those things, and really focusing on being a student. That yes, we will see some of those discipline issues that are really serious ones that really impact
Mm-hmm.
social emotional needs, students' mental health, the trauma that I've seen social media cause. And sometimes it's an innocent post, but when you're a young developing brain, you interpret things differently. So, yes, long answer to say that my hope is that we will see a decrease in some of those discipline issues that we've been seeing.
Well, and it just allows for them to have, like you said, with the talking to a person and not using your phone and having conversations. And that is so critical in their development.
Yeah.
What would
And
you
it's
say is
still,
the,
I'm
sorry, go
sorry. I
ahead.
was just going to say, I think it's amazing, even in education. Like we're in it's not social media, but we're in a digital world, and the amount of time that we don't have to talk to people, we can literally do business and work without talking to people. And I think about school. I think school is about those social skills. It is about appropriate relationships between adults and children, and between children and each other. And so I think that though that normalcy that we're aiming to get is so important to the development of a child.
Yes, that's great. I would love to find out in the next year or two, an update how that's going. So,
Yeah.
what would you say is
Yeah.
the most common type of misuse or issue that your administration deals with? Like, do you see cyberbullying, overuse, the mental health? You've talked about a lot of those, but what do you say is most common?
Cyberbullying.
Mm.
Cyberbullying. Saying mean things, taking pictures, posting like silly things that are meant to be funny but that cause harm. Making phrases. I want to do this to somebody, and it's intended to be a joke, but we can't joke in that way anymore. So inciting violence. Often issues that happen in the community are carried over into the school. So just because it happened in the community, I still have to, I'm still accountable to keeping the school safe. So there is no disconnect between community and school anymore. They merge together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that students are not understanding that. Well, I didn't post it at school. I was at home. What, you came to school and you incited all of these people about this post that you made in your bedroom, and you brought that to school because the post does not go away. And so that is one of the main issues that we're seeing with, and is image, is self-esteem, it's what we perceive to be good and bad, and just the over amplification that we have on how we look and how we dress and what we have. And students really believing that a lot of the social media feeds that they see of even like celebrities and the hip hop culture is very prominent in African American communities, and not just African American. It's probably one of the most profound
Influential, yeah.
music genre in the like for young people. Period. And if you take that genre and see what's out there, a lot of those things aren't even real, but our children don't understand how to decipher. This person doesn't live their life like this every single day. And so they're aiming to replicate these things that, again, cause harm.
Yeah, and cyberbullying, you just triggered a thought that it's almost an interpretation from there. I mean, because a lot of times that response is, "Oh, I was just joking." I mean, come on, take a
Yes.
joke. But
Yep.
in the school, the parents, the adult version of that post is cyberbullying, right? It's the definition of it, and it almost feels
Yep.
like there may be a disconnect in the interpretation of what cyberbullying is, which is hard because there's no direct
Right.
definition to it, but
Right.
that you just triggered a thought there, and that's an interesting point you brought up.
And I think to your point, trauma is real, and trauma impacts people differently. So you might post, Sharonica has a big head, and I do have a big head. It may not mean anything to me, but you could say that to someone else, and that could be the most traumatic thing you could ever say to that person. Now, is that offensive? Yes. Is it wrong? Yes. Is that something that is considered disruptive? Yes. Is that something for discipline? I don't know. It depends on the impact that it has. And so I think we have to help our kids understand intent versus impact. And your intention could have just been, it was a funny joke. You have a big head. That's funny. But God forbid something happens as a result of that post to that person. And that's a tragic example. But I think that is why we have to be very careful about helping them understand the power of their words, the power of their post, the power of their actions. And I firmly, firmly believe that we should never, ever use social media. And this is my opinion. And I know that, the other thing, we have adults who don't use social media appropriately, but
Correct.
I firmly believe that we should never use social media to bully, to cause harm. I think that's such a one-sided, coward way to engage, and I say that to our young people. It's just not appropriate. And if you were on the other side, if you were on the receiving end of whatever this is, how would that make you feel? So we talk a lot about that empathy piece and the harm that could be caused. So intent versus impact, and being crystal clear about what that means.
It's great. I love that. Do you notice any viral challenges being kind of a trending topic in your district, or see that lead to misuse either during school or coming back into the school from incidents over the weekend? Like, how big is that for you guys?
So things just going viral.
Yes.
Like if there's an
Yeah.
event
Viral
and then it just
challenges,
goes
kids.
viral. Yeah.
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 Or like kids
Yeah.
going to the bathroom to
Yeah.
record,
Yep. All of
viral
that. We
challenges. Okay.
we had a very, yes, we've had many examples. One, in my opinion, is too many. So it's not like it's a pervasive thing that we deal with daily or even weekly. But if one child is harmed because of it, it's just too much. And we work sometimes with some of these social media platforms. We've had things removed or reduced, and there are some controls. But once it's out there, I mean, it's a lot, and it's hard sometimes to rein the children in and to really again focus on school because it's a disruption. And we have some students who are just like, you know what, I don't partake, I don't engage, but they're children. So if they see a shining object, they're going to go look at it. And so that's what I think about those viral types of instances. They're going to go look at it. They're going to see what it is. And it does cause disruption.
And we've also heard anonymous accounts really on any platform being such trouble because it's hard to identify who's behind making these posts or what group is behind, putting posts out there that often target other students or teachers or administration or whatever. Has that been
Yep.
somewhat of a challenge as well?
Well, our students are very vocal. So even when it's anonymous, we're able to decipher. We can trace it.
Okay.
Because I think we're really building a community and we value relationships. We thrive on relationships and the healthy part of relationships. They know, and they will share. They will tell on their friend who thought they were creating an anonymous post, and so we can typically trace it back. We do have a good partnership with our U City Police Department, and so unfortunately, we've had some instances that were pretty egregious where we did have to engage law enforcement and work to trace things that way.
Okay.
Which is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but it's good to have that resource and that you have tools out there. Do you have other tools or strategies or programs you use in your district to not only equip students to be good digital citizens, but maybe like training opportunities for your staff? Like, what do you have in place for your students and staff to help them navigate this digital world?
So for our staff, we have, digital citizenship, and we also have it for students. I definitely think that it is an opportunity where we can do much more. And we're looking at ways to better infuse it, and also thinking about how do we start this conversation younger, so that it's developmentally appropriate even for our elementary students. So I would say that that is an opportunity for us as a system. We have been more reactive than I would like to be, and not as proactive. So I think a proactive would be a solid strategy with a solid training protocol. I mean, our staff have our insurance training that they have to go through every year. They'll require training, but most people don't really pay attention to that. So I think that there are ways to embed it more in what we do, because it is much more prevalent, and actually giving examples and really talking about the impact of when social media goes wrong.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're making some moves with some culture shifts with the lockers and things like that. So it sounds like you're putting things in place, and it's
Yep.
ever evolving, right? So yeah,
Yes,
but it sounds like you're making moves.
we're trying.
I love that. So thinking about everything you've shared and trying to think of that single piece of advice that you feel most important, what would you share with other school leaders or even new emerging school leaders regarding digital and social media in schools?
It is not going away. I was the person who thought Facebook would go away. And here we are, years later. I'm dating myself. I know it. How do we use it productively? How do we give students and staff tools and the skills that they need to negotiate and interact with social media and digital pieces responsibly and in a way that does not cause harm? Schools are not about harm. Schools should be about love and relationships and care. And so it is our responsibility as school leaders to ensure that we have those loving environments for our staff and our students. And when we don't, for any reason, then that's a failure. So that would be my advice.
That's great advice. The relationship piece is key for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a bonus question for you. Last question.
Yeah.
So you talked about the talking and putting your device away and just taking that time. If you were to take a break from social media, put your phone away for a few days, what would be your book recommendation?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. I am actually reading a new book, and I'm very, very excited about it. It was actually one of my holiday gifts, and it is called Radiance of Tomorrow, a novel by Ismail B. So, yep, Radiance of
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Radiance of Tomorrow. I'll definitely be checking
Yep.
that out.
Yep.
For sure.
And I love that you're able to find some time to read with your very,
Oh, yeah.
very busy schedule.
I love reading is my pastime. I enjoy it so much.
And speaking of busy schedules, thank you for the time. I know you have some upcoming priorities that you're trying to meet
Absolutely.
deadlines for. Thank you so much. You've shared so much insightful information and responses with us. This is going to be great for a lot of people. Thank you.
Yes, provide
Well,
a
thank
great
you for the
perspective.
opportunity. Yeah, well, thank you for
Absolutely.
the opportunity. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right. Well, we'll hope to talk to you soon. And thank you again.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Take
Have
care.
a good day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm not even sure how to recap that. She covered everything. Just go listen to it again, and you'll be good, right?
I think so. I probably will listen to it again a few times.
Yes. I do need to call out that she's the only guest, and I think we need to create some type of prize pack for this. She's the only guest that dropped the gram.
She might be one of the coolest guests we've had. That was pretty great.
No doubt.
She said so many great things, but just her passion and her choice of words. She is a knowledgeable woman, and you can tell she loves what she does. I love that she called the kids scholars and used the words that she loves technology, but it's also the thing she likes the least. Like, just, she was so enjoyable to talk to. It's interesting to talk to different people and hear what's going on at different levels, but the phone lockers sound like they're going really well. I'm very curious to see how that goes long term, to see if it can help limit distractions But Sharonica's right. I mean, as an educator, we are at school to teach math and to teach reading and to teach social studies and science and writing. And, when we have those devices out and it's distracting them and they're focused on sending messages or making videos, it can really distract from what they're really at school for. So I think that's cool. But even cooler is that they're rolling it out slowly in middle school it really shows the middle school students that, they care about them and they want them to understand why they're doing it and understand the process of it and not have that power struggle. And I think that says a lot that her scholars are kind of able to have a voice in it.
Yeah. And not only is she great at what she does in being a superintendent, but she also truly understands change management, change process, and this critical culture shift. So it's so impressive the considerations that they're taking to make sure that the kids understand the why behind it, and so that they can all get behind the new processes, move forward all lockstep, and begin positive change. It's fantastic. It's very cool to hear.
Yes. Another update I want, the middle school rollout.
Yes.
She mentioned the lack of supervision piece, especially when kids have devices at home. Just making sure parents are aware and not being punitive. It really resonated with me as a parent to make sure that I'm not punishing my own kids for what they're doing, but supervising and having those conversations with them, because kids are good with technology. They teach me things that I don't know how to do. Even my 4-year-old showed me how to do something on my phone once I didn't know. So I think that supervision piece is so important.
Yeah. Apps alone aren't always enough. Need parent supervision, parent guidance, parent connectivity. All need to work in tandem for this to be successful and to give them the best of what we have to offer. So she said it in such a great way to connect with parents.
We actually had a conversation with our parents as teachers representative from our district a few weeks ago, and she asked about us eating dinner together. Do you eat together? Are devices allowed? Do you watch TV? And I told her no. When we're at the dinner table, we eat together. We almost every night we eat dinner together. And she looked a little surprised. I don't know that that's always the norm, but Sharonica talked about that no device time and having those real face-to-face conversations and connecting with each other. And it's one of my favorite times of the day when I can connect with my kids and have those conversations and learn about what's going on in their world. So that was refreshing to hear how important that time is with them, because they're used to being connected to devices and technology at school all day. And I think that face-to-face conversation piece is really important.
Well, it's a skill, connecting with people face-to-face, that can become lost if that's the only world that you're engaged in. So she talked about middle schoolers' development of the brain, executive functioning, and that they always feel like they're older than what they are. And I like that she called that out, but making sure that we're giving them that time and attention and the ability to grow mentally and teach them of being where they are from an age perspective, right? You know, be appropriate to your age, enjoy the time, and do things appropriate to your age, I think can be something that's brought out through those face-to-face engagements and interactions.
Yeah, not only feeling older than we are, but wanting to grow up faster than we should. I know I was that way at that age.
Which is what can happen with that, the content that's put in front of them, which I think she talked a little bit about. But I actually have a question for you before you say anything.
Yes.
What happens when the toothpaste comes out of the tube?
You can't get it back in. It will never go back in the same. Once it is out, it is out.
And that's such a great analogy.
Love that.
And yeah, we've heard different ways, unique ways of framing that up. And that's one I hadn't heard. And it's great. So once it's out, you cannot put it back in. And once you post something on social media, it's almost impossible to hide it, get rid of it, erase it. It's going to get screenshots. It's going to get reposted. It's going to be captured in a way that everybody's going to see it, especially when things happen to go viral. And there's nothing that you can do about it. Once you post it, it's out of your hands.
Yes, that was a great analogy. Sharonica also talked about intent versus impact. And it took me a minute to really process that, but it's so powerful. Cyberbullying is clearly a big issue in schools, and especially with social media and people posting things and saying, oh, I was just joking. I liked her example with her big head. And different things hurt people's feelings for different reasons. And if what you are saying or posting is going to hurt somebody in another way, it's not just joking. And your intent might not have been to hurt that person's feeling, but the impact it has on them can be lasting. It can be damaging. It can be so, so critical. And I think that was really good to talk about those teachable moments and having those conversations, that just joking is not always just joking to the other person.
Yeah. And she framed it up so nicely with, she ran through several questions. Is it wrong? Yeah. Is it hurtful? Yeah. Is it discipline? I don't know. But it is a teachable moment, ultimately, is where she was going with that. And I just thought that was crafted and framed up so well to really call that out, to say, even though it may not be disciplinary, which is okay, and we're not chasing discipline, right? But this could be a teachable moment, because there can be somewhat of a gray line between children posting something and it being interpreted by adults or whoever the intended person is that received that to be cyberbullying. So again, just really, really great job, and kudos to her for calling that out.
Yes. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was media literacy. She talked about music and lyrics and artists on social media and the influence that they can have on kids. We see one glimpse at someone's life on social media, and teens don't always know how to differentiate between real everyday life and entertainment. And what we see on social media, we think is everything, but there's so much more than that. And I think that media literacy piece is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And if that's the world that you are in all day, every day, it's going to be hard at that age, whether you're in middle school, which she mentioned is even more challenging than being in high school and trying to recognize or differentiate between reality versus entertainment, and just the value there that the artists are trying to portray, across the spectrum. Social media sometimes is real, but oftentimes is not real. It's for entertainment value, but kids can get swept up in the craze of it, the influence of it, and not be able to distinguish between the two.
Yeah, and I think we forget sometimes that a lot of people post, even not celebrities, but people post the best parts of their life most often. There are not many people that are out there talking about their toddler not going to bed or the fight they got into with their best friend. They're posting the goods, all these amazing things that are happening in their lives. And when you don't see that, or you don't know, you think that other people's lives are perfect, and it's important for them to be able to differentiate between that.
Well, if you made it this far in the recap, thank you. Although you can just go back and re-listen. It was such a fantastic conversation with Dr. Sharonica Hardin-Bartley. We really appreciate her time. And Nicole, as always, I appreciate yours.
I appreciate yours as well, Chris.
Thank you.
And remember, in the midst of chaos, there's always a way to find clarity. Have a great day.
Bye.
We are growing and would love your feedback. Please rate us and share your thoughts or any topics you would be interested in us covering in the future. Are you or someone you know interested in being a guest on the podcast? Visit us at chaoticdigitalworld.com.
One way to help support the show is by adding a new resource to your library. Order a copy of A Parent's Guide, Keeping Your Children Safe in a Chaotic Digital World today on Amazon. Follow us on all social media platforms, and don't forget to subscribe to keep updated with new episodes and bonus content. As always, thank you for listening. This episode of Chaotic Digital World is brought to you in part by Next Steps Inc. Next Steps, a software created for schools or organizations to transform the way we think about attendance management. Did you know? When an institution or organization uses 5 minutes per day for 6 sessions, that's equivalent to 15 wasted hours per month. And if there's an emergency evacuation, emergency personnel have to go in and search for those who may be hiding. We've solved those problems and more. At Next Steps, you can say goodbye to manual attendance and hello to efficiency and productivity. Our software automates the entire process, saving you time and resources. Visit us on our website at next-stepsinc.com to book a demo and learn more. We're waiting to speak with you.